What if your entire life was programmed since your birth, and almost every situation you've experienced after that sounds like a bunch of conspiracy theories that no one's heard of? Even the government have to shrug their shoulders on this one. I promise you can't make this shit up, buddy. On top of that, you receive a phone call in your 30s that unravel the secrets of your existence, confirming that you finally have the proof that proves you've been telling the truth. So I ask again, what if your entire life was programmed since your birth? What if before your birth, a man was hired to force your 14-year-old mother to open up her womb in order to conceive a black and white mixed-race baby in Manchester, New Hampshire, to play a part in their generational, long-game agenda? Then you go back even further and discover the reason they violated your mom was because her parents, your grandparents, played a major part in the civil rights movement, integrating New Orleans, and were the only ones forced to leave town on the white supremacist-funded reverse freedom rides to New Hampshire.
Took him to jail, and then when he came out of jail, he had on a cardboard that says, "Nigger, stay in your place."
Williams was born in New Orleans, Louisiana. She participated in the civil rights movement from 1958 to 1962. It was instrumental in integrating the city. In 1962, at age 19, because of her affiliation with the civil rights movement, she was taken by two white supremacists and placed on a freedom train from New Orleans to Nashua, New Hampshire.
Started, my husband was part of the civil rights movement. So was I. My husband was kind of like a militant, so he was kind of target. And so one time the police came to the house, and we thought it was the police, but it was really a white supremacist. And I was pregnant with my fourth child, and they pulled him out of the house, and they took him to jail. And then when he came out of jail, he had on a cardboard that says, "Nigger, stay in your place," and he had to take the bus. And when he came home, well, while they were grabbing him, there were a gas line next to our house where I climbed on a gas line because they were going to take both of us. He was traveling on the bus with a few others, and he ended up in Manchester at the Army base. Okay, so then they came after me to get me out. I was still pregnant and like closer to 7 months, and they said I only had like 30 minutes to get all my things, meaning 3 babies, and get out. They came back, and when they came back, I was only able to collect about 2 changing of clothes for 3 kids, and a whole bunch of baby food, jars of baby food. Then they took me to the train station, of which I was met by supremacists. There were a gang of them, but 2 of them hopped the train with me and on.
Northern liberals and the NAACP, Urban League, and people like that especially, they have been crying the sing-song in behalf of the Negroes throughout the nation. And of course, now when it comes time for them to put up or shut up, they have shut up.
That was George Singleman, reverse freedom rights organizer, using people, human lives, as pawns to make a political, and let's face it, racist points. Sending people of color fleeing political and economic turmoil to the north to stick it to progressive policies. Change is often met with resistance, which is why the next year, white segregationists concocted a viciously racist plan, offering black people one-way tickets to the north or to the west with the promise of a better life. These bus trips were dubbed reverse freedom rides. Southern segregationists hatched this plan to be cruel, for certain, but also to retaliate against Northern liberals who they believed would be unable to accommodate their new black residents. It exposed them as hypocrites.
Manchester, New Hampshire, on April 25th, 1975, a young black teenager was raped and impregnated in order for her to give birth to a black and white child. Me.
My mother wasn't just randomly raped. All that extra schooling was to train me and condition. They were having girls raped and the kids programmed from 2 years old to 14, just like I was, just so we could fit into their agenda. When I was 14 and I refused to write and create songs with all that weird shit, that's when my closest family and loved ones started dying under suspicious circumstances. Sounds nuts, but where's the lie? Now, that's me on the left, and that's my brother Daniel on the right. Thing is, We're days apart, same age. But my mom got raped on the East Coast and his on the West. Our dad had to have raped them both within days, if not the same day. When I finally called to tell him that I was his brother, conveniently, he died just days before. Heart complications. My ass. Something just doesn't add up. This happened with my sister Solange right before I met her. She died. And then a year after that, my mom died. This shit is fucking nuts, but I guess I'm just tripping.
See if you're a brave person, what they call the 4 o'clock in the morning courage. Wait when things go completely to pieces, when things are the worst, when your very best deal falls apart and your rent is late and you're tired and you're sick and everybody is mad at you and your car doesn't work. Then it's the person that picks themselves up and says, nothing is going to stop me. You know, the best quality in the world that you can develop, and I give it to you because I made it my life's habit to develop this quality. I hope I've got it, but I don't know for sure. But the quality is to develop the quality of being unstoppable. Develop the quality of being unstoppable. Say in yourself that no matter what life throws at me, it'll never stop me. No matter how rough it gets, I will never quit, and nothing will ever stop me.
Sometimes we get so fed up that we're consumed with so much rage and vengeance that we end up destroying ourselves, like I almost did. But instead, I took the same pain that was gained through what some people call trauma, but I pronounce it school, and I turned it into spinach so my past and my present could walk right past death, which created a whole new timeline with a version of myself that had a higher awareness of life. Even though my soul was so tired and thought it was time for us to go, my vibration was way too strong to go anywhere because I had unfinished business. I couldn't say anything then because they had control and they turned my voice down. So the people that were passing me by, they couldn't hear what was happening to me, and my family, who also were unaware that people were getting taken from us and they weren't just dying. Even the people closest to me, they couldn't read my body language. I had to be quiet before and come up with some type of plan, but for a decade and a half now, I've been giving you obvious hints, along with leaving messages in my music since 2007, at least to prove to everyone that what I'm about to say next was true, just by being this patient. So please, accept my apology in advance because I'm about to be very loud, metaphorically speaking, and at first it's going to sound unbelievable. Literally, because it's something that you've never heard said before. You've never heard words put in this order to form sentences saying things that your ears have never experienced. You're gonna assume that I'm doing this for attention, or for money, or pity, or out of boredom, for clout, or it's my mental health, or drugs, or a political or religious reason, self-serving purposes, or just for no reason at all. It's your attention. And when I get it, then I can lower my voice and hear yours, your questions, your opinions, your answers. All right, here we go. Try not to cover your ears.
The cognitive benefits of being black and white is being able to navigate multiple identities by subconsciously programming my higher self. How to train my mind to separately see both perspectives from both races at any given time. How to think, feel, experience, and to be able to fully comprehend the deeply rooted, unwritten chemical makeup of both white and black races. The other skills taught me how to be a solutionist. It was pounded in my head. Always learn and seek information. Logic and reasoning, critical thinking, problem solving, abstract thinking, quantitative skill.
About twice now. I'm in love with you. I think we share a connection. Will you marry me?
My nose is not that big, is it? Yeah. Your nose is fucking huge, dude. Fucking big ass fucking nose, dude. Fuck you. Nigga, you're literally me. Just literally me. So, come on. Do it. Come on. Oh, you're an airplane. You're funny. You're an airplane. Ooh, you're an airplane. This way. Come on. The fuck, man. Fucking, your nose is as big as mine. Fucking nose ass nigga. Nose ass nigga. Fuck you. Go back to the movie. It's okay. Go back to the movie. It's alright.
Nose, lips, beliefs, lifestyle, and his accent when he's passionate or angry. He knew that came along with the territory. But what bothered Q the most was that he also was told that he was too white to be black, because of his complexion, women he's dated, his kids, his respect for white people that stood and stand with blacks for equality, while standing against racism and systematic poverty. Plus his proper California accent that was mixed with New Orleans grammar didn't help. It made him sound fake, which he didn't mind because he would be constantly underestimated, giving him the drop on unsuspecting hate makers. Most dark-skinned black folks view light-skinned mixed people as soft, emotional and unworthy of being called black. Instead, they were referred to as red or yellow, which didn't bother him as much as not being considered black at all because the dilution of his DNA. Mulattoes were labeled house Negroes, Uncle Toms among other names. And even though his mom was full black and his dad was half black and half Irish, raised by an all-black family on his grandfather's side in New Orleans and by an all-black family on his grandmother's side in California, New Hampshire, because his family was forced by white supremacists to move up north during the reverse freedom rides in 1962, almost 20 years before he was born. His grandparents were civil rights leaders that helped integrate New Orleans and Nashua, New Hampshire, that made his whole family a target of victimization from 1962 through today. At least 14 members of his family have died under suspicious circumstances since the year he was born, starting with his militant grandfather that committed, quote-unquote, suicide, and as recent as 2021 with the murder of his brother that he never met or even knew existed for 40 years. Until his world-renowned genealogist cousin, Nika Smith, told Quiet he had a brother, which now they know that he died the same day Q found out. It took him a couple days to finally call his brother Daniel to tell him he had a brother, but he was already dead. Reminiscent of how his sister died at 9 months, days before he was to meet her when he was 5, and the murder of his mom when he was 6. Leaving him with 11 more deaths of his immediate family members that were covered up. More than half were taken under the age of 20. Assuming someone hasn't experienced the struggles of being black today, when in fact he's gone and still going through more racism and hate crimes in the present than most black people will ever experience or can even imagine in their whole lifetime. Now combine that with inheriting your grandparents' responsibility to make a difference and the consequences that come along with it. This is one of the biggest reasons he decided to make this movie. Not only did he have to deal with racism from white people, he had to deal with black people that thought he was not black enough to stand in the same circle he was fighting for, so he used both of his races and promised to educate both sides with unconventional tactics. This is truly only the beginning of what happens when you try to stop a man who has realized how to utilize both sides.
The collective was founded sometime between 1963, after the controversial Reverse Freedom Rides, and April 25, 1975, the exact day Quiet was conceived. During the Reverse Freedom Rides, the White Citizens Council, a white supremacist group, had orchestrated a cruel plan. They bought one-way bus tickets for hundreds of black American families and sent them north to humiliate northern white liberals, attempting to expose their alleged hypocrisy. Little did anyone know that out of this insidious situation, a group was forming that would go on to manipulate both races for decades to come. The Collective. While initially, the Collective consisted of less than 100 individuals who were disillusioned by the hate groups at the time, they grew exponentially, reaching an estimated 800,000 members by 2020. Their mission? To covertly infiltrate every level of society, from government and corporations to media and law enforcement. But their ultimate goal remained ambiguous until years later, when they revealed their desire to mold someone like Quiet, a mixed-race Trojan horse who could break racial barriers and manipulate the music industry, thereby expanding their agenda. One of the most critical and disturbing moments in this story is the event that led to Quiet's conception. The Collective, highly organized and forward-thinking, wanted a person of mixed race to infiltrate both the black and white communities. They hired a man to assault Quiet's mother, Laverne, who was only 14 years old at the time. As a child, Quiet endured immense trauma at the hands of the Collective. His sister was taken when she was only 9 months old, and his mother was taken a year later. both under suspicious circumstances orchestrated by the collective to inflict deep emotional scars on Quiet. Their aim was to mold him, to use his pain as fuel for the music industry they intended for him to dominate. They even trained and programmed him from an early age, though Quiet didn't realize the full extent of this conditioning until later in life. Between the ages of 6 and 9, Quiet didn't speak. The loss of his sister and mother had left him in a state of silent observation. He watched people, studied them, and began to see the world differently. This period of silence laid the foundation for the man he would become. Quiet, calculating, and insightful, traits that would eventually work against the collective. While the collective had plans for him to infiltrate the music industry on their terms,
niggas is suckers, yo. You know why I say that? It's because, listen, this man, he been making moves. He been told niggas, yo, I'm gonna get a studio. He did that. He did more than one studio. He been told niggas, I'm gonna have a cheesecake factory attached to the studio. Niggas laugh. He did that. He been told niggas, I'm gonna sew this whole fucking block down. And he did that. Niggas laugh. Amen. Including myself. Including myself. I'm real enough to say that. You know what? Again, niggas just like, okay, he's making a movie, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But y'all can reach out to him. But when that nigga say, yo, Switch, come through, let me show you this. Stick the key in the first door, key in the second door, key in the third. Like, yeah, nigga, I did this. I was just like, okay, then nigga, you know about your business. I'm real enough to say that in the beginning, I was one of them niggas. Now I'm not no more.
The Interview, a soulful encounter with Quiet Akillez. By the time I realized I wasn't conducting an interview, I was already transformed. Dante Baker, known as Quiet Akillez Quiet, is no ordinary man. In fact, his presence is not so much a person, but a doorway, a guide, an experience. Upon sitting with Quiet, I was struck by his self-awareness, not the boastful, self-aggrandizing awareness that comes with ego, but a profound, almost casual humility. When asked how he views himself, Quiet simply replied, I'm no different from anyone else or their purpose, no matter how close or far in contrast. We are all equal parts of one existence. At first, the statement seemed straightforward, admirable, but unassuming. Yet, something about it settled into the room like a weightless force, lingering, shaping the air. It wasn't until much later that I realized how extraordinary his words were. Not because they were profound, but because they were true in ways science and logic would struggle to articulate.
Do you remember a story in the early 90s about the 14-year-old California rapper named H2O? Hard to oppose? They said he was going to be one of the top artists of all time. Do you remember that? I doubt it, because the story disappeared, and so did the kid. Come to find out, he was being cognitively programmed, trained and conditioned, in plain sight, inside his school, in aftercare programs, doctor's appointments, and home visits from the ages of 2 years old until he was 14. Between New Orleans and California,
They pretty much created me by having my mom raped, impregnated and giving birth to me.
This is the prequel motion picture to the Quiet Akillez.
Before you solve a problem, you gotta figure out whose problem it is. Sometimes you can't solve a problem because it's not yours to solve. If no one's willing to accept the responsibility for the problem, including the person whose problem it is, that problem can't be solved. Eventually, somebody's gonna have to make a decision about what to do about the problem.
It wasn't until 2007, when his daughter was born, that Quiet began to realize the extent of the collective's involvement in his life. On July 17, 2007, he received a life-altering phone call from Kevin, an inside source and member of a new generation of the collective. Kevin, the grandson of one of the collective's founders, revealed to Quiet that everything he had experienced, from the deaths of his loved ones to his near-death experiences, was orchestrated by the collective. As we continued, something happened that I cannot explain with language alone. Quiet's energy wasn't just present, it was alive. I felt it subtly bending reality around me. My observations began to shift. I started questioning the nature of existence itself. His words, while simple, began to challenge the very framework of my mind. What struck me most was his ability to embody duality. He was utterly ordinary and yet utterly divine. His every response wasn't just an answer, but an unveiling, as if peeling back the veil on something hidden in plain sight.
True definition of what it really means to be quiet, you're gonna have to come with me. so bear with me. My mother was raped. I'm the product of that rape. If it wasn't for my grandmother, I'd be dead. My mom was only 14 years old. She was only a child. I would have been aborted. So that made my aunts and my uncles my sisters and my brothers. Follow me? Now, I was born in Nashville, New Hampshire, right there at St. Joe's. At 2 years old, I went to New Orleans and lived with my grandfather's side of the family. They tried to keep me. My grandmother, by then, moved to California. She had to fight for me. She won. Now I'm on my way back to California on the airplane with my Delta wings, 6 years old, flirting with the stewardess. An hour before I got there, my sister Solange, 9 months old, died of SIDS. The fuck? 60 minutes. And then a year later, my mother got killed. Might as well put them in the same casket. Shit. And now you know the short story of why they call me quiet. Because I didn't talk from the ages of 6 to 9. You don't think I know how crazy I sound? Talk about some hidden group that killed 14, maybe even more. I can't tell if the deaths related, but at least 14 of my family members and loved ones.
And for the record, this is not to feel sorry for me. Better cut that shit out.
You don't think I know how crazy that sounds? Especially when I say that my mom was raped by a secret group of people that was founded around the time that the reverse freedom rides happened in 1962. And they picked my family that was sent here to New Hampshire to use and push their gender programming a black and white kid right from birth to influence the public, both races, through music. Well, hell yeah, that sounds nuts. The fuck? People can't wrap their head around it. So they determined that you're nuts. So a group of white people from New Hampshire didn't appreciate other white people sending Negroes to their state in order to humiliate other white people.
Tears streamed down my face, cold and straight, as if they traced the outline of a pencil's edge. The cold wasn't a chill, but the wetness of my own tears. I didn't stop to analyze why I was crying. Quiet never interrupted or acknowledged it. And somehow, that silence was the answer itself. My tears, my emotions, weren't an interruption. They were part of the process. By the end, I understood the meaning behind them. I wasn't crying because I was sad. I wasn't crying because I was overwhelmed. I was crying because I was waking up. And isn't that when we wash our faces? When we first awaken? That's what Quiet was doing. He wasn't leading an interview. He wasn't answering questions. He was gently guiding me through every layer of my being toward a place I didn't know existed within myself. A dimension beyond what I thought possible, where senses blend and multiply, and the lines between self and other dissolve.
When your family and other black families arrive there, you're not as welcomed as you think because, an unknown amount of time later, a not so obvious but major example was the formation of the hidden organization called Akillez, which was founded in New Hampshire, specializing in the infiltration of major hate groups, the entertainment business, the military, law enforcement, banking, technology, and investment firms, not to mention the judicial, legislative, and executive branches of our government, along with getting close and targeting major captain of industry types that work directly and or indirectly for the people who really control this world. Sounds unlikely, right? Then you fast forward past your birth and then find out that that's exactly what happened to Dante Quiet Akillez Baker. Then came the tragic losses. The same year Quiet was born, his grandfather moved back to New Orleans and took his own life. When he was 5, his 9-month-old sister was taken from this life right before he could see her in California. Then his mama's life was snatched exactly a year later, right in front of him. They felt these traumas would add to his music persona and make him pliable. Instead, it fueled his resolve. He stopped talking for 3 years, which is where he obviously earned his nickname. Quiet went through this unique phase from ages 6 to 9 where he didn't talk. Silence was his fortress, his way of navigating a world he didn't quite understand. Little did the collective know those 3 years of quiet observation became Quiet's secret strength. While most kids were chatting away, Quiet was silently studying people, absorbing the nuances of communication.
Yeah, we do old and new, tells the truth. Watch who you listen to, watch who you fucking with. I just don't know you. You be good, I just don't know you. I'm a daddy and a son, a convict and a drunk. When I'm a boyfriend, I'm in love. When I'm not, I'm just a fuck.
I'm bitching and I'm venting for the simple fact that no one ever listens to the real niggas that really rap.
So what up? Conceited and I'm stuck up. Snitches, shut the fuck up. Never seen when I snuck up.
Drink it away, me and Jose, alcoholic tendency. Probably be better without the vendetta, dreaming of the demons inside of me.
Checking my phone when you're alone. Checking my texts, calling my exes. This is ridiculous, doesn't make sense. Just reading my message, delete my pictures. Thank you for being the reason I could keep on going. No one's showing me reality. Even when you mad at me, look at mommy, she got me. Nothing can stop me. Poppy got your back too. This is what we do. Duck, duck, go. I'm living it slow, living it fast, living the past, living the now, living the later. The fakers, the traitors, the failers, the haters.
Acid ditties, different cities, different faces, different races, fucking in different places. Fast, slow, different paces.
If you're a New England fan, clap your hands and stomp your feet. Represent your boss and team. Do the way, get out your seat. That's that cash, money in the bank, fingers in the paint. City to city, state to state. Follow your fate, talkers of hate. You ain't away. Every day, all day to the day we die. Get on the back of the next with the knife.
Before you in the Queen City, think for you do it. Don't come to Manchester, Arsenal City, acting stupid.
Most people assume that Quiet Akillez didn't make it as a music artist. No, he just didn't want anybody touching his butt. They liked them young, couldn't be me. He said, nope, no, thank you, sir, ma'am. Nope, bye. At 15 years old. Yes, I said 15 years old in California. See the date, see it? Right there. Look, one of the first and youngest artists to refuse a major record deal to start his own company at 15. Yup, I'll say it one more time. 15 for those that didn't hear him in the back. He said, the music business is political, and making money is all they think about. A major label wants to change you. I don't want to be mainstreamed. I'm trying to make it long-term on my own label. He said that label was Devon Records. He combined his name, Dante, his mom's name, Laverne, and his sister's name, Solange. Devon Records. This was a year after the organization The Collective offered him a lucrative deal, seeing that they were the ones that actually created him by hiring someone to violate his mom when she was 14 to conceive him a mixed black and white baby to unknowingly raise, train, and program him to be a part of a sinister agenda to infiltrate the real music business. But he refused their offer too. He didn't know until later who these monsters really were and what they did to get to this point in his life. Money, time, teacher after teacher, bribing the faculty and principals of each school. Quiet Akillez salutes you. Yes, his name is Quiet to his friends and Dante Atlas Baker Sr. to judges, police, and the rest of you that say you know him but never do, but always has something hater-made to say. Like his businesses always fail. Where bitch where. Quiet never gives up, especially on you. That's why he's the only human being standing up in a world full of sit-downs against a bunch of evil people doing suspect things. And most of us are only good at doing two things, bitchin' and tension. If you're not going to do anything, don't distract him from doing this. This guy could have made this whole shit up and is still doing more than any of us do. Take my word for it, bud. Quiet always says we don't die. All energy does is transfer from one place to the other. So, if you're not going, support, share, or like, or follow him, cut out the shit. Or are you on the other side with the corruption gang? Did you get a new job today, huh? Head of distraction services? Huh, congrats. Honestly, I'd leave. Quiet the hell alone. If you're gonna be a, what's the word I'm looking for? Hold up, a pencil, no, a dog leash. No, that's funny though, I don't do this normally. It's the word pussy. A scary canary, that's pussy. Sit down, sir. Thanks. I mean, listen to this.
More than 100 years of American history documented. It started in 1898 when Quiet's great-great-grandfather, Louis Atlas Sr., started meticulously documenting his experiences and America's history. He has been journaling since he was young, created a rich collection of knowledge to be passed down through generations. He actually didn't know what he was going to do with all of these books. But before he could decide, he unfortunately passed away in 1958. His daughter, Cora Atlas Thompson, found all his journals after he was gone, and she wanted to feel like he was still there. She read the many things he aspired to do, but didn't. So she picked a couple to start for him. Like father, like daughter, Cora continued his legacy by establishing secretly the Atlas Family Legacy Preserve, with several family members, ensuring that the family's history and wisdom were preserved and passed down through every generation. Her successor was her daughter, Alice Thompson. In 1993, tragedy struck the Atlas family when the original choice for Alice as the next mediator after her, Alana Parker Thompson, her niece and Quiet's favorite cousin, died in a car accident at just 22 years old in New Orleans. This heartbreaking event led Alice Thompson, Quiet's aunt and former guardian, to appoint him as her successor. Quiet accepted the role in 1994 but officially stepped into his position in 2007 after a beautifully horrific event occurred in his life. The true test of his innovative prowess came in July 2024 when he activated the Protect Americans All Costs initiative, set to deploy 100 solutions he has perfected over 17 years one by one. Quiet comes from a long list of civil rights movement leaders, and if something happens to him, the Atlas Family Legacy Preserve and Quiet have contingency plans for every situation, even his death.
There's a lot of prejudice going on in Nashua. And when I spoke to one of the ladies, she said, we're all afraid of African Americans because all we ever heard on the news media, everything was negative. The pastors, the rabbis, we all got together, their parishioners, at the Unitarian Universalist Church, a little white church. I forgot the name of the street. I think it was White Street. I'm not sure exactly. After that point, we were working on trying to get them better housing, better locations. And so it seemed like leaving New Orleans, my job was to integrate Nashua because there really was not a lot of integration there. And I'd left New Orleans, part of the civil rights movement. They had already integrated New Orleans. To come back, to go to a place that was worse than New Orleans, because the people didn't know what to feel about African Americans. And the rest is
his story. My grandmother got my mom an apartment so she can actually be a mom with me. And, we stayed in Manchester until I was about 2. And then we were walking down the street and a group of dudes were walking behind us. The policeman drove up, whatever. They kind of turned around. They all turned around and started talking to him or whoever, him, her, both of them. So she took that opportunity to pick me up. And, we lived right around the corner. And she ran to the house. And then she called my grandmother on that phone. And my grandmother got us out of there and went to New Orleans, where we weren't supposed to go. But I guess anything was better than being there.
When a hero stumbles, well, the cowards rejoice. Nothing feels better to a coward than to watch a brave guy fall.
We said all that to say this. One man, whose family was targeted and killed, all because they raped a little girl in order for her to birth a mulatto child to program and train, to put sentences and thoughts together with music in a way like nobody before him, he said no. He would not be bullied to change what he believes in. So they killed his family, destroyed and shadow banned him. One of the most extraordinary artists you never heard, that would have transcended music into another dimension. Instead, he had to devise a long plan to prove he was telling the truth, and what we needed to do, through messages in his music videos, his TV shows and his movies. He built businesses from scratch, so he would need no outside help. Everything in-house. He built a connection with people in all 50 states through his TV networks in all 50 states, his compilation 50 music CDs with artists from all 50 states, along with all their fans. And now through his virtual reality cities, he is connecting small businesses from all 50 states. Also, in case he needed backup from the American people to continue his mission to give America another chance to start over and launch one with the biggest economically impactful campaigns in America in every state. Also launch a plan against anyone in case something happened to him, with the help from his super friends. That's always been the plan. The younger generation of the collective asked Quiet Akillez what he wanted. Money, his career, power, whatever he liked. This was after they helped him dismantle the collective's founding generation's horrific reign and barbaric tactics that killed 14 of Quiet's family and loved ones. With all those choices, this one simple man chose to save other human beings, instead of having anything he wanted for the family he lost. Now we need everybody's help. Not against the government or our country. For our country, for us, for the people.
Hey, change is often met with resistance, which is why the next year, white segregationists concocted a viciously racist plan, offering black people one-way tickets to the north or to the west with the promise of a better life. These bus trips were dubbed reverse freedom rides.
The whole history of America is the history of rich white men telling not rich white people that their enemies are black and brown. It starts in the colonies of what would become the United States. Let's remember, during the colonial period, mid-1600s, there was no such thing as white people. I know some people who are now called white find that shocking, right? Because they think whiteness is real. Right? But whiteness was created. Europeans didn't call themselves white. We didn't call ourselves white. We weren't all members of one big happy family. Are you kidding? Have you studied the history of Europe? The history of Europe was about killing each other. That's what we did in Europe. We just killed each other. Before we figured out there were other people to kill, we just killed each other. Right? I mean, that was the history of Europe. The English hated the Irish, right? Northern Italians didn't even think that Southern Italians were Italians. The Germans hated everybody, and everybody hated their ass right back, right? There was no team called white, no race called white, but all of a sudden, in the middle of the 1600s, there was. Why? Why was it suddenly necessary to create this thing called the white race? Well, because rich people can count, that's why. And so rich folks looked around, the ones that owned all the land, you know, in the colonies, the colonial elite looked around and they realized something, that they were heavily outnumbered by African enslaved folks, by European indentured servants who were just one level above a slave, or other Europeans who weren't technically indentured servants, but they were still peasants, didn't have any money, didn't have any land, and they could do the math. They added it up and they were like, damn, we got to figure out a way to split these folks apart from one another or they're going to rise up and take our stuff. Right? Because after a while, these black folks who were enslaved Africans and these quote-unquote white folks who were poor Europeans are going to figure out they're all getting played by these rich people. Right? So ultimately, the rich figure out they got to come up with some way to get somebody in that group on their team. The easiest thing is to get the poor Europeans. Right? Because at least they look like you. They sort of share some of the customs and the culture. So they all of a sudden create this thing called whiteness and they say, now you're part of the club. Now we're going to let you testify in court, enter into contracts, vote, at least if you're a man, own a little bit of land, at least if you're a man, right? And we're going to get rid of indentured servitude. No more of that, because you're too good for that. And we're going to take the white men, now called white men, and put them on the slave patrol to keep black people in line. Give them a horse and a gun and a badge and make them feel big and powerful, right? They're still poor. They still don't have anything. They didn't pay the slave patrol well, right? Just exploited them, used them as a buffer between the elite and the other poor folks, particularly poor folks of color. And pretty soon the rebellions that occasionally happened where black and white got together to overthrow the elite, those stopped because the divide and conquer had begun to work, right? You could turn people against each other by telling those poor white folks they got to keep these black people in line. And so that divide and conquer gets initiated in the colonies.
Part 2 of this plan included having their exceptionally gifted members dedicating their life to getting accepted into prominent colleges, fraternities, sororities, secret clubs, mysterious societies, and the armed forces, leading them to their ultimate goal of covertly getting close and working for or alongside with the collective's targets by working for, earning trust, and in most cases, becoming like family to very important, influential, powerful, and rich white Americans, along with a small number of black, Spanish, and other ethnicities that were in top positions of the judicial, legislative, and executive branches of the government, major corporations that were focused in banking, pharmaceutical, technology, art and entertainment, sports, food industries, law enforcement, along with a number of other key strategic targets.
That guy that wonders why no one hasn't brokered to sit down with God and the devil. I mean, he's God's creation, which pretty much makes him his son. In turn, the devil's father. Nothing a hug and apology couldn't solve. I mean, forgiveness isn't out the question, is it? Right? Thought somebody would have suggested it by now. Anyways, I said all that to say this. That guy that wonders why no one hasn't at this broken to sit down with God and the devil. I mean, he's God's creation, which pretty much makes him his son. Some say in turn, people that the devil's father. Why haven't we nothing a hug and apology couldn't solve? A sit down and discuss our forgiveness isn't out the question, is it? Right? Right. We thought somebody would have suggested it by now. To the side. Anyways, I said all that to say this. With all the complaining we do, at this point is just complaining. Here, I'll say it a little different. With all the bitching that we do about how the government and some say the real people that run our world, why haven't we given them a direct message? A sit down to discuss our concerns, you know what I mean? Oh, that's right. We can't even agree to put our own differences to the side and even begin asking the government if they're keeping anything from us.
It was only after the interview ended that I realized something astonishing. I had never been in control. I hadn't been guiding the conversation. Quiet had allowed me the illusion of control, a gentle kindness that made it easier for me to open up and receive what was unfolding. But Quiet wasn't manipulating or deceiving me. He was a mirror, reflecting not just who I was, but the layers of existence that surround and connect us all. By letting go of control, I began to feel the deeper textures of life itself. The way sound isn't just heard but felt. The way touch isn't just physical but emotional. The way words can carry weight beyond their meanings. Quiet wasn't showing me parlor tricks or philosophical concepts. He was revealing the architecture of reality itself, the hidden dimensions we overlook in the busyness of our daily lives. A force, not a person. By the time it was over, I wasn't sure if Quiet was a man, a force, or something else entirely. But one thing became clear. What he offered was not knowledge, but awakening. He reminded me that we are all connected, threads in the same infinite tapestry. I promised myself to share his words, but no transcription could capture the essence of what happened. Quiet didn't just speak. He showed me that existence is far more intricate, alive, and interconnected than I could ever imagine. This wasn't an interview, it was an awakening. And for that, I am forever changed.
Southern segregationists hatched this plan to be cruel, for certain, but also to retaliate against Northern liberals who they believed would be unable to accommodate their new black residents.
At the height of the civil rights movement and in retaliation for an effort to integrate Greyhound buses.
When at the height of the civil rights movement, Southern segregationists gave African American residents one-way bus tickets to communities in the North.
Southern segregationists gave African American residents one-way bus tickets to communities in the North.
She was taken by two white supremacists and placed on a freedom train from New Orleans to Nashua, New Hampshire.
Of which I was met by supremacists. There were a gang of them, but two of them hopped the train with me, and they carried the tickets. They were holding on to the tickets. And each time we got to a certain city, state, then two more would get on.
Your subconscious or the universe, it doesn't know when you're joking. You know what I'm saying? Watch what you're talking about. Watch what you say. Your subconscious doesn't know anything except for you. It's just not aware of anything outside of your body, your mind. So when you're arguing with somebody, when you're calling them names, you ain't shit, you ain't this, you ain't that, the subconscious is not thinking that you're talking to somebody. It's actually thinking you're talking to yourself. So it's like, okay, let's make that happen. You don't even think it. What do you think? You can hide from your subconscious? Conscious, like, I'm right here. You create all of that shit. So watch what you say to people. Can't trick that shit.
I'm not gonna lie, but this week on Deep Dive, we have something that people have been hoping for years, but no one would act on it. Just talk. Where are the good guys? Save the nation. Help the people get the real America without the corruption. Nothing has been eradicated since the birth of this nation. Poverty, racism, etc., just political disputes every 4 years on what will be done, but nothing has been done.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that sentiment, that frustration with all the noise and the lack of any real movement, that is the exact frequency we need to be on to understand today's subject. We're looking at a figure who, well, he defies pretty much every category you try to put him in. His name is Dante Baker, also known as Quiet Akillez. And if you go to Google right now and type that name in, you're going to get a very, very strange mix of results. You'll see music, you'll see references to a cheesecake business, maybe some VR tech or civil rights activism. It looks like a mess.
It looks like total chaos. And usually when we see someone doing that many things, a CEO who's also a rapper, who's also a historian, we think, okay, this person is scattered.
It's a vanity project.
Yeah,
It's
right.
a vanity project. But if you stop there, you are missing this massive submerged iceberg right beneath the surface. We have piles of sources today, dossiers, personal journals, transcripts, and they all paint a picture of someone who isn't scattered at all. He is incredibly precise.
And that's the pivot point. We aren't doing a celebrity profile today. We're also looking at the anatomy of what the documents call a systems constructor. That term just hooked me immediately. So the mission of this deep dive is to figure out how one man took a lifetime of what honestly sounds like movie script level trauma and silence and converted it into this 23 division infrastructure.
Designed to, and this is a direct quote from the source, repair the scaffolding of reality.
That is such a bold, almost arrogant claim.
It is bold, but to understand the repair, you really have to understand the damage. And in this case, the damage isn't just personal, it's historical. The sources emphasize that Dante Baker isn't just a person. He's more of a living through line of American history. And that history starts long before he was even born, with an event that is, frankly, one of the darker, less talked about chapters of the 20th century.
You're talking about the reverse freedom rides. I have to admit, until I read through the historical context in this dossier, I didn't fully grasp the scale of this.
Most people haven't.
We all know about the Freedom Riders activists going south to integrate buses, but this was the inverse, and it was happening in New Hampshire.
Context is absolutely crucial here. The year is 1962. You have the White Citizens Council, which was essentially a suit and tie version of segregationists in the South, and they wanted to retaliate against Northern liberals pushing for integration. They wanted to prove a point.
So what did they do?
So they concocted this plan, and cruel is really the only word for it, to trick black families in the South. They promised them high-paying jobs, housing, all in the North, specifically targeting New Hampshire.
So they literally used human beings as a prank.
They used them as political pawns to humiliate Northern liberals. They gave these families one-way bus tickets, send them up to Concord or Nashua, knowing full well there were no jobs and no housing waiting for them.
Wow.
It was designed to create a crisis, and Dante's family was caught directly in that crossfire.
The sources detail how his grandparents, who were active in integrating New Orleans, were targeted specifically.
Exactly. So they were essentially exiled to New Hampshire. And the documents suggest that this event, this concentration of displaced trauma and political manipulation, is what sparked the formation of a shadowy group up there.
The one referred to in the reports as the Collective.
That's it.
Now, usually when we hear about secret groups, I get skeptical, but the dossier treats this as like a matter of historical record.
It does, and it frames the Collective not just as a hate group, not like the Klan, but as something more structural.
What does that mean?
The sources say they started as just disillusioned individuals, but morphed into a very sophisticated network. They wanted to manipulate racial dynamics, infiltrate media, influence culture from the shadows. They realized you can't just fight with violence, you have to fight with culture. And to do that, they needed a vessel.
And this is the part that just turns my stomach. The dossier explicitly states that Dante's conception in 1975, it wasn't an accident,
No.
It was orchestrated. His mother, Laverne, was only 14 years old. She was assaulted by someone hired by the Collective.
Their goal, according to the transcripts, was to create a mixed-race child, a so-called Trojan horse, who could straddle both black and white worlds.
And eventually be used to influence the music industry and culture for their agenda.
It's harrowing to read. The level of premeditation is just chilling. They wanted a cultural weapon, not a child.
And the tragedy didn't stop at his birth. His sister Solange was taken at 9 months old. Then his mother died under suspicious circumstances a year later.
We are talking about a child surrounded by loss and orchestrated chaos before he was even 10 years old.
And his reaction to all this, well, it explains the name, quiet.
Right. Between the ages of 6 and 9, Dante stopped speaking. He went completely mute for 3 years.
Wow.
Now, a standard psychologist might see that and just say, okay, trauma response, a freeze state, a shutdown.
Sure.
But the analysis in our sources offers a completely different take. It says, for quiet, silence is not the absence of noise. Silence is the accumulation of intelligence.
Accumulation of intelligence. That implies he was doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
It implies agency.
He was processing.
Yeah.
The source suggests that because he removed the output of speech, he maximized the input of observation.
That makes a strange kind of sense.
Think about it. When you aren't talking, people tend to forget you're there. They show you who they really are. He learned micro-expressions, body language, tone, pattern recognition.
He was learning to see the world from both racial perspectives at the same time.
Exactly. This wasn't just a child hiding. This was, maybe inadvertently, an operative in training. He was developing the cognitive tools he would later use to dismantle the very systems trying to control him.
It's almost like if you lose your sight, your hearing gets sharper. He shut down his vocal cords to amp up the analytical processing.
Precisely. And that ability to read the room, or rather, to read the structure of the room, that became his primary weapon. He learned to see the scaffolding.
So you have this kid raised in silence, hyper-observant, mixed race, in a state that was, hostile to his existence. Fast forward a bit.
And the collective decides it's time to cash in on their investment.
Right. They want him to be a star. They groom him for the music industry.
They offered him everything. Record deals, fame, the works. This was the Future Forward Records era that's mentioned in the biggest.
They wanted to package his pain and sell it.
It's the ultimate cynical move. We built this tragedy, now let's monetize the product. But here's the first major pivot point in his life. At 15 years old, he refuses.
That is difficult to comprehend. Most 15-year-olds would do anything for a record deal. Why did he say no?
He saw the strings. Because of that silence training, he recognized the industry was political. It was about control, not art.
So what did he do?
He starts his own label, Devon Records. Named after himself, his mom, and his sister, he chose independence over fame. And he developed this musical philosophy called individual.
I saw that in the notes. Spelled unique individual and instrument combined. What does that actually mean in practice?
It means he treated music as compressed cognition. He wasn't just making beats. He was using music to encode his thoughts, to structure his reality. It was a way to organize his own mind.
But even with all this, the sources imply he didn't fully understand why his life had been so uniquely difficult until one specific day.
July 17th, 2007.
The phone call. This plays out like a scene from a conspiracy thriller, but again, it's right there in the dossier. He's 32, his daughter is just born, and he gets a call from a guy named Kevin.
And Kevin was a whistleblower from a younger generation of the collective. Evidently, he'd grown a conscience. He drops the bomb, tells Dante his entire life, the assault on his mother, his sister's death, all the bad luck, the struggles. It had all been programmed.
It was orchestrated.
Every bit of it.
Can't even imagine processing that. Learning your life's trauma was someone else's project plan. The anger must have been just off the charts.
You'd think so. If that were me, I'm thinking revenge. I'm thinking going to the press, burning it all down.
Right.
And that's what the collective likely expected. Reaction. Chaos. If he reacts violently, they win. They can lock him up or discredit him. But this is what makes Dante quiet Akillez.
He didn't do any of that.
He didn't go out and buy a gun. He didn't scream on the internet.
What did he do?
He went quiet again. But this time, it was strategic. He began what the dossier calls a 17-year silent build.
A silent build.
The expert analysis here is fascinating. It says he decided to dismantle the system, not by fighting it head-on, which is what they'd expect, but by building a parallel system that renders the old one obsolete.
And this brings us to the U.S. American group. This is where that systems constructor title really starts to make sense.
Absolutely, because he didn't just build a record label or a charity. He basically built a civilization.
It's a closed-loop ecosystem. The sources list 23 different divisions.
You get media, food, technology, housing. But they aren't random businesses. They're all designed to fix specific failure points in society.
He calls himself a solutionist. The philosophy is systems over slogans.
Systems over slogans. I love that.
We hear so many slogans today. End poverty, fix the schools. But very few people actually draw up the blueprints.
Exactly.
So let's look at how that applies to something tangible. The HOME initiative stuck out to me because of the method. The source says Dante actually lived as homeless for a while.
Yes. Field research. He concluded that you cannot solve homelessness from a boardroom. You need to understand the root cause.
And what did he find?
He found that homelessness isn't just a lack of walls. It's a breakdown of structure, of dignity, of mental regulation. So HOME, homeless organizing, mentally, every day, isn't a charity.
How does it differ from a shelter?
It's what he calls a behavioral compact. It requires self-regulation and economic contribution. It treats the unhoused as misplaced human capital, not charity cases.
So it restores agency?
It restores agency, which is the first thing poverty strips away. It gives them a role within the system, not just a bed.
And then we have to talk about the cheesecake. I promised the listeners we'd mention the cheesecake, Mr. Baker cheesecake. It sounds delicious, but in this context, it's also tactical.
It is tactical. Think about it. If you're building a revolutionary social system, you can't rely on banks or venture capitalists who might disagree with your politics.
Or pull funding if you get too radical.
Right. You need independent cash flow. The cheesecake business is an independent economic node. It funds the other initiatives. It's part of that military-grade redundancy the report mentions.
So if one part of the system is attacked,
the cheesecake division just keeps generating revenue. It's vertical integration applied to social justice.
that is wild. He's using baked goods to fund a revolution. And what about PAAC, Protect Americans at all costs? This wasn't even his original idea, was it?
No. And that connects to this deep family legacy we have to get into. It was originally drafted by his aunt, Alice Thompson, way back in 1971. Dante just resurrected it.
And it focuses on civilian stabilization.
And accountability. Then you have HELPP, the Heroin Epidemic Lifeline. Again, looking at the root cause, opioids destroying communities, and offering a structure-first recovery model. He sees where society is bleeding and applies the tourniquet that he manufactured himself.
It's amazing how he takes these massive, intractable problems, homelessness, addiction, racism, and attacks them with these very structured, almost engineering-like solutions.
But he's also using high-tech. The VR aspect isn't just for gaming.
Right, the US-American 360-degree VR World Fair and this Pure R360 concept.
The analysis says he's using virtual reality for neural retraining.
Neural retraining, like brainwashing.
No, more like physical therapy for the brain. Think about his background with trauma. He understands how the brain locks into patterns of fear or prejudice.
Okay.
He believes VR can be used for trauma desensitization and empathy calibration. It's about creating a parallel operational environment. If the real world is broken and prejudiced, you build a digital one where the rules are fair, and you use it to train people how to be better. Then you export those behaviors back into the real world.
That is a staggering concept. He's coding a better society in a simulator and then uploading the user manual to people's brains. It's like a flight simulator for citizenship.
Exactly. And it speaks to his core belief.
Yeah.
Human beings aren't inherently broken. They are just operating on bad software. He's trying to push an update.
But to really understand where this drive comes from, we have to look backward. It's not just the trauma, it's the bloodline. The dossier calls it the Atlas family legacy.
This is the historical backbone of the whole story. The report highlights a man named Louis Atlas Sr., who was Dante's great-great-grandfather. He started journaling in the late 1800s, and there's this mysterious detail, an 8-day gap in his journals in 1898.
The 8-day gap, it sounds like the title of a mystery novel. What happened?
The sources interpret it as a signal of disruption. Something happened that forced silence, likely violence, or threats so severe it couldn't be written down.
And from that point on?
From that point on, the family, specifically the women like Cora and Alice, maintained what they called a decentralized human archive. They documented everything.
They became the fate keepers.
Yes. They refused to let their history be erased or rewritten by people in power. They knew that if you don't write your own history, someone else will write it for you, and they won't be kind.
And Dante inherited this role. But the documents give him a specific title, the referee or the mediator. Why that?
It comes back to his mixed lineage, black and white, and that specific training in silence and observation. He's positioned as neutral.
But not passive.
No. The source is very clear. Neutrality here isn't passivity. It's not sitting on the fence.
Right, because usually neutral means you don't care, or you're afraid to pick a side.
Here, it means he is the only one who can see the whole board. It's the ability to interpret both sides without collapsing into either one. He stands in the middle to keep the game fair.
repairing the scaffolding of reality so it holds up for everyone.
That's the idea. And it all feeds into his concept of radical unity.
Radical unity. No human is above another. It sounds simple, almost like a bumper sticker, but when you apply it as a rigid system, it changes everything.
And the sheer volume of his output. The report mentions 888 discoveries.
888, touching on consciousness, synchronization, economic equilibrium, neutrality dynamics.
The analyst notes that even if only a fraction of those are valid, it represents a massive leap in social technology. He's not just building businesses, he's building intellectual frameworks.
A library of solutions for problems we haven't even fully identified yet.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming when you look at it all together. You have a man conceived in violence, targeted by a conspiracy, who stays silent, watches, learns, and then spends 17 years building this massive interlocking machine to fix the country. And he does it all while refusing to be a victim.
That's the key takeaway for me. He challenges this modern myth that visibility equals value. In our culture, if you aren't posting about it, you aren't doing it. If you aren't screaming, you aren't fighting.
And Dante Quiet Baker suggests the opposite.
Completely. He suggests that the most consequential figures are the quiet ones, the ones who wait for the gears to turn and then act with precision.
Infrastructure over optics.
Yeah.
I love that. He's not trying to win an argument on Twitter. He's trying to build a system where the argument doesn't matter anymore because the problem is solved.
Exactly. He's moving from the drama of the problem to the mechanics of the resolution. And in a polarized world, that is a revolutionary act.
It really is. It makes you look at the noise of our daily lives differently. We spend so much time reacting to the symptoms, the angry headlines, the social media fights, that we forget to look at the root causes.
And that's the danger of the noise. It keeps you distracted. The architecture of silence that Dante built allowed him to see the game board clearly. And the dossier concludes with a really haunting thought. Once you see the architecture of silence, you can never go back to the noise.
That's going to stick with me. We are living in a world of screaming accolades, and here's a guy saying, no, shut up and build.
Mm-hmm.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the life and mind of Quiet Akillez, we always like to leave you with something to think about.
We do. And this story really challenges the way we all operate in our own lives.
It does. So here's the question for you to carry into your week. The sources say that once you see the architecture of silence, you can never go back to the noise. So if you stopped reacting to the symptoms of the problems in your life, the drama, the stress, the immediate fires, and started acting like a systems constructor to fix the root cause, what would your first quiet move be?
Think about it.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.
What my dad doesn't know is that even though I know he was in the streets so he could make sure me and my brothers and even my mother didn't have to worry about a thing forever, I would have rather him be here with us. I didn't want forever, I wanted my daddy now. By the time this comes out, I will be 10 years older and feel some type of way. I thought everything would change when he went legit so he wouldn't risk going to jail being away from us. Sadly that was some bullshit. Plus I heard bad things about my daddy. Some girl said he raped her. The fucked up situation with him and my sister, his supposed stepdaughter, and just the way things have turned out. He still isn't any closer to succeeding, or maybe he is, I don't fucking know. I told him I never wanted to talk to him again. He missed my 18th birthday, probably high on coke. Fucking guy. I read my mom's text from him and he said he wished she died instead of his other baby mother, and some awful things I'd rather not repeat. I told him I wish he was dead now. When you're a kid you think your daddy can do no wrong. Then you grow up and say, yeah fucking right.
The game is the same, the only thing that will change is the name. Let me introduce you to someone that knows how to play the game well in exchange for being a selfish as fuck, alcoholic, drug abusing, big nose manipulating prick. Well, not a prick, but he's definitely a bastard that didn't give a damn about your situation unless it directly affected his and or his kid's future. Meet Quiet Akillez, the highly intelligent idiot that could always see and plan 3 steps ahead but couldn't afford to pay for the transportation to get there because his dumb ass was already paying the price that karma charged him to look the other way and come back later. And you better bet your booty crack, karma never forgets. Never.
Okay, there you go. Keep talking that deadbeat baby daddy shit. Even though I don't drink anymore, I socially abuse a couple drugs. My nose is huge. Manipulating? That sounds about right. I don't blame my daughter or my kids or even my baby's mother. I blame myself for leaving my baby mom at home in her head while I sold somebody that you probably know's pussy. A lot of girls were late on their run, or they were just fucking crackheads, including the so-called rape victim that was so afraid to tell my baby's mother that I was selling her cootnoot, which led to my baby's mother telling my kids, her family, Lord knows who else. I really could tell that she believed it because we had 2 more kids right afterwards. The fuck? Not to mention that the cartoon rape victim, which she's part of the reason why real rape victims are not even taken seriously. She was bumping my new album the next week. We seen her driving by. Nobody wants to say nothing about that, but that was 16 years ago. I wasn't even bothered by it because I didn't do shit until my daughter believed that toxicity that floated around by me. See, as an alpha male that's used to priding itself on not having to recite corny pickup lines, the thought of forcing a woman to give me her is fucking sick. Never mind the thought of myself being so pathetic and helpless, I needed to kidnap a woman's tulip. I was barely a man for profiting off a woman's body in the first fucking place. I'm highly ashamed of that part of my life. The fact still remains, I was too busy dodging the pink taco. Bitches were popping out my mailbox and my sock drawer, and shit was crazy. I sold 2 types of crack, butt crack and coke crack. Alright, look. The fact of the matter is, I put myself in that position. If I didn't put myself in that position, this wouldn't be an issue. You know what I'm saying? So I take a lot of the blame, a lot of it. By the way, I have 7 kids from 4 different women. I barely had time to grow the fucking skin back on my dick with... Never mind, look. Cover all the juicy shit you're gonna hear. We're gonna go ahead and point the finger at me, get that all out the way, and in between everywhere else, it's gotta be fair. Alright?
Okay, now go ahead and carry on with that deadbeat baby daddy shit.
But the one thing I can tell you is this. At first it looks like selfishness, until you look long enough and realize it doesn't feel selfish at all. It will almost feel protective. But by the time you figure that out, I'm afraid that it will be too late by then. It's the reason why I always watch this motherfucker's back, and the reason why I'm giving you a heads up. Unless you fucked him over, then of course, either make that shit right, or turn the fuck around right now and skeet skirt the fuck out of there. Oh my, shit. How rude of me. Hi, my name is Karma.
My name is, never mind. I'll tell you later. I'm not here to give you some bullshit story about some random guy named Quiet Akillez or a bunch of lies about his life so he can sell music or cheesecake or whatever the fuck you think the purpose of this movie is. I'm about to put you on some game. When you leave one house and move into another house, or if you're going through a breakup, or if you left something, or something left you, like your freedom or someone passed away, that's when your mind senses something missing, and tries to mimic it, which as we know are called memories. If you would, please imagine that at any time and at any moment you could make yourself aware that you're inside of a memory. Right then and there you can control every memory while it's happening. You'd be able to see at least 3 steps ahead, and 3 different outcomes to each step, putting you one step in front of the future. This is all someone would need to hold the door open for theirself and for people that are on a higher awareness of life, that absolutely understood what I just meant, with no question. You would move a lot different than you do now, by understanding how important it is to the rest of your life and your mental and well-being to appreciate everything you have before it's gone. That's why people are always so sad at funerals, crying about not doing or saying things with that person. Always realizing that people aren't taken too soon. But you were just too late. Everyone is here to change someone's trajectory, even if that's only one person, even if it's just your own. Our purpose in life might be so quiet, that most people never realize how much you change the world, even if it's just one person's world every day, with you in it. Every word and every action you make alters your future and others, most of the time not seeing how far it goes, on some fucking butterfly effect shit. Quiet realized this exactly 20 years ago, while he was at the Farnham Center for 30 days, and a counselor, who wasn't even his counselor, gave him a book that would teach him that something is underlying this life. After 14 years, a counselor never came back to work after that day. He spent the first 4 years understanding his purpose, then started learning a year after that on how to use it, then 15 years ago he started building it. Still fucking up in between, still pimping and selling crack, which we will get into later. Trust me. After finding out that he had a brother in the summer of 2021 that was the same exact age as he was, a week and a half earlier, his brother Daniel died before Quiet would be able to meet him. Obviously this is way past it becoming a pattern. since he always has to be nosy and try to find the purpose in shit. One day after going through a bunch of shit hit him all at once. All he could say is, shit. First, I got to say, it's already hard enough to wrap my head around the fact that he didn't even realize that he was writing down certain memories, before they were even memories, then hiding them in plain sight so he and others could find them at the times it became necessary. No. What was crazy is where he wrote them. In his songs. In his fucking songs to remind him. The fuck? Listen to the kind of shit this dumb genius says.
Now where was God at when my dad raped my mom at 14? Got her pregnant when he did it. Now I'm here and I get it. I understand life's plan. God's hands are clutching on my mic stand. Am I the right man? Yes. Forgive me, I'm bleeding and I'm sorry for the past and the present and tomorrow. No guts and no glory. I'm sticking to my story. Forgive me, either on purpose or accidentally. Forget me. I promise you I'm not here to throw God at you and preach. Half of me here to entertain, the other to teach. Life is like a hair on a juicy Georgia peach. Gets fuzzy, all we think about is money. We're funny, leave behind all the people you think you can't trust no more. Look at them one last time, say goodbye and close the door. Your higher powers, whatever you wanna be, even if you can't see him. He's not always there when you want him, but he's always there when you need him.
Oh no question. I was a fucking prick back then. I'm a prick now, but I'm legal. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't like I was back then. I had to be a fucking prick. Shit. The first time that I ever went to sleep while one of my girls were working, she got raped. That was the first night that I ever did fucking coke. Thanks, baby mama. For real, thanks. Because I never went to sleep after that fucking when anybody was working. Dude died 2 days later, but hey, karma must have been a prostitute. I don't know. But listen, what I'm saying to you is that I wanted to trap everything off. I was trying to trap the skin off of shit. I was trapping so fucking hard, I was skinning bears and fucking trapping everywhere. Nigga, I had 3 houses out there. You know what I'm saying? Right there on Broad Street. Right next to Clarence's fucking car wash. God bless the dead. You know what I'm saying? My homie used to run that shit. And then he got raided. I mean, one of the places into a fucking rooming house because the ones that washed the cars, all they did was get money and, you know, fucking do crack. Or people would ride up and they would, you know, wash their cars and still do whatever they did. I was selling crack. They wanted crack. After my dude, you know what I'm saying, is, you know, trying to fight his case in jail, I'm talking to him, sending money to his girl. I'm watching all this money just going, you know what I'm saying, just nothing to fill the void for it. And I asked my homie, it's like, bro, I'm trying to take that over. I'll, you know, hit him off, which if you know who I'm talking about, if you know, you know. She ended up being my best friend, my fucking bottom bitch. She's my ride or die. She's the one that helped me fucking create and build Black October. You know what I'm saying? She died in 2012, but yeah, we'll talk about the in-between. I gotta go though. All right, bro? Appreciate you.
I'm a little bitch who a lot knew I couldn't stop, knew I couldn't wait, knew it was fate. Caught from the start up, hella high water, everything was great until hate. Doesn't really matter what I think. When we fought, I drink. When you cry, I shrink. Relationships, they need that link. Otherwise, they're gonna sink. Believe me, you did me dirty. Communicated, but you never heard me. All I wanted was to live and learn me. Tried to burn me, and I seen it early. Never could display in another way. Games play, I'm leaving today. Remember the date, remember the time. Out of my heart and out of my mind. You can die, and that's for real. It's not for real. I love you still, but love can kill, and so can I. So get the fuck up out of here. It really doesn't matter, you gotta go, even though you fucking slow.
I lied. This movie was never about me, about you. I lied again. About lying. See, I could lie all day. I'm lying. I can't even leave a lie in the air for more than 60 seconds. But I did lie less than a minute ago about this movie not being about me. It never said that this movie was about me. It said it was based on a true story. It's about my life. It is based on a true story. It's not at all me. Do you understand? It's not me. My life and me, not the same.
Let me at least try to explain. Just like you, your story, which is made up of everything that everybody put together, that's your story, your life. And then there's you, the real you. The real you. Not for anybody else, but for at least my kids, so my kids' kids can know that their dad just wasn't the typical. I was a fuck up though. We're not taking any of that away from me. I was a dumb fuck. I hate talking because the more I talk, the more it sounds like bullshit. I'm done. Talk to you later.
do have incredible artists in Manchester. We left it for like 2 years, so y'all motherfuckers can take it and run away with it. Again, we have to come back. We heard what you said, that motherfuckers out here hate, and they do. But you have to understand that this shit, it goes back, you know what I'm saying, with LB when he started this shit. You know what I'm saying? And Steve, God bless the dead, you know what I'm saying? And then it was this nigga at VIP, Family Affair Records. And I came from California, and it's been consistent.
Had a Negro friend or a Negro maid or somebody in high school, but they never, or rarely, after school was over or whatever, came to my kitchen. We were segregated from the schoolhouse door. Therefore, he doesn't know. He really does not know what it was like for me to leave my house, leave the school and go back to Harlem. He doesn't know how Negroes live. And it comes as a great surprise to the Kennedy brothers and to everybody else in the country. I'm certain.
The Northern Liberals and the NAACP, Urban League, and people like that especially, they have been crying the sing-song in behalf of the Negroes throughout the nation. And of course now when it comes time for them to put up or shut up, they have shut up.
His mere presence debunked one of the most established physical laws, that two objects cannot occupy the same space at the same time. Quiet proved otherwise. A realization that transcended at some point. Though I couldn't pinpoint exactly when, I began to cry. But it wasn't a choice. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't joy. It was something deeper, primal, and beyond emotion.
Dear non-racist white people, as members of the Black community, we want to take a moment to express our deepest gratitude to you. In a world where systemic racism and oppression continue to plague our communities, your unwavering support and allyship have not gone unnoticed. Throughout history, we have endured unspeakable horrors at the hands of those who sought to diminish our humanity and strip away our dignity. From the brutality of slavery to the violence of Jim Crow, the scars of our collective trauma run deep. But amidst the darkness, there have always been beacons of light. Individuals like you who have stood by our side, offering compassion, empathy, and solidarity in our darkest hours. We have seen you, standing shoulder to shoulder with us in the fight for justice and equality. We have seen you, using your privilege and platform to amplify our voices and advocate for change. We have seen you, challenging the status quo and refusing to be complicit in systems of oppression. And for that, we are eternally grateful. Despite the atrocities committed against us by members of your own community, you have chosen love over hate, compassion over indifference, and solidarity over silence. You have recognized the inherent worth and dignity of every human being, regardless of race or ethnicity, and you have stood up for what is right, even when it was difficult or unpopular to do so. In a world that often seeks to divide us along racial lines, you have been a shining example of what it means to be truly human, to see beyond the color of one's skin, and recognize the humanity that binds us all together. Your kindness, empathy, and compassion have not only uplifted our spirits, but have also given us hope for a better, more just future. So from the bottom of our hearts, we want to say thank you. Thank you for your unwavering support, your tireless advocacy, and your steadfast commitment to justice and equality. Thank you for standing with us in solidarity, even when it was difficult or uncomfortable to do so. And thank you for reminding us that, despite the darkness that surrounds us, there is still goodness and light in the world. Together, we will continue to fight for a future where all people are treated with dignity, respect, and equality, regardless of race or ethnicity. And with allies like you by our side, we know that anything is possible. With deepest gratitude, the Black community.